Welcome to this explainer of serine fillers without consent, which is this incredibly gripping novella from the Altered by Design series. Today, we're gonna unravel what I can only describe as a terrifyingly plausible genetic thriller. This isn't just your standard true crime story. It's a deep dive into unchecked scientific ambition, dark corporate greed, and a massive cover-up that stretches all the way from the dusty red center of Australia straight to the polished global power hubs in Geneva. We're going to use the core evidence from the book to map out exactly how this whole conspiracy operates. So let's get into it. We have to start right here, in the rugged Australian outback, with an absolute anomaly. Think about this. What killed a perfectly healthy man in the cool desert night? Our victim is an Aboriginal man named Bruce Japolcharai. He's found dead just outside the heavily restricted perimeter of Red Gum Station, which, by the way, is a highly classified joint intelligence facility in the Northern Territory. The official government story? Heat exposure. But the temperature that night was a really mild 20 degrees Celsius. So yeah, something definitely doesn't add up. Section 1, Death in the Red Center. Okay, to figure out what actually happened, we follow our main guy, Australian Federal Police Forensic Specialist Dr. Marcus Webber. He's super methodical, right? And he gets pulled into this baffling midnight investigation inside a sterile, heavily monitored facility in Alice Springs. There, he teams up with the on-site medical officer, Dr. Lara Chan. Together, during a totally secret autopsy, they find something that should be impossible. When they examine Bruce's body under UV light, they see this faint, geometric network of light running through his cardiovascular system. Literally like glowing circuitry. It's a vascular network that completely, 100% defies natural human biology. Which brings us to Section 2, the CRISPR conspiracy. This impossible biology leads us directly into the bleeding edge of real-world biotechnology, CRISPR. You've probably heard of it. It's a very real tool used to edit DNA, and it holds incredible promise for, curing diseases. But in this story, the science has been pushed to a really horrific extreme. Marcus and Lara realized that Bruce's cellular structure had been deliberately altered. We're talking custom genetic modifications for increased bone strength and accelerated cellular repair. Someone was literally rewriting his DNA to build a stronger human. Dr. Chan has a line here that I think perfectly nails the pure dread of the situation. She calls them patterns that shouldn't exist in human biology. I mean, genetic modification of living adults on this scale is supposed to be decades away from ever reaching human trials, let alone practical application in the real world. And yet, here is undeniable physical proof lying right there on an autopsy table in the middle of the desert. But the biological reality of what happened to Bruce was brutal. Those massive genetic modifications triggered a fatal systemic rejection. Basically, his multiple organ systems failed all at once. And the horror doesn't even stop there. Dr. Chan looks into her hidden personal medical records and realizes Bruce wasn't an isolated incident. There were at least half a dozen other Indigenous contractors exhibiting the exact same anomalies. They were all showing signs of early-stage forced genetic modifications. This completely changes the scale of the investigation. Section 3, Trail to Tropical Darwin. As soon as the people behind this conspiracy realize Marcus and Laura are asking questions, they panic. They wipe the facility servers and destroy the physical tissue samples. But, luckily, Marcus is smart. He has backups. Following a digital trail of shady shell companies, he is pulled out of the dry desert and straight into the thick, oppressive humidity of Darwin up north. And just look at the pacing here. It's relentless. He goes from a midnight call in Melbourne to a secret autopsy in Alice Springs to a dawn rendezvous at Anzac Hill and then a flight up to Darwin, literally all in a matter of hours. The bad guys are moving incredibly fast to silence him. Once he's in Darwin, Marcus uncovers the front company, Genexa Medical. And their protocol, orchestrated by this amoral geneticist named Dr. Barbara Voddard, was as brilliant as it was deeply ruthless. Genexa targeted marginalized populations to use as disposable test subjects. It's a sickening irony, right? They posed as saviors running health studies, lured their targets in with cash, and then secretly pumped them full of experimental gene therapies disguised as normal vitamin IV drips, all just to harvest their biological data. $15,000. That is the exact amount they paid to victims like Kira Nangala. Kira was a single mother working 3 jobs just to keep her head above water. She traded 3 weeks of her time for what she was told were standard vitamin infusions. Instead, Genexa Medical secretly rewrote her genetic code. They completely altered her senses and cellular makeup without a single ounce of consent. It is the absolute ultimate violation of bodily autonomy. Section 4. Enter the perfect predator. Now, Gen X and medical figured they could just exploit these folks because they lived on the margins of society. They thought no one would notice, but they massively underestimated their own test subjects. This all boils over into a violent snapper confrontation at Darwin's famous Mindil Beach Market, and out of that chaos, we get this amazing unlikely alliance. You've got Dr. Marcus Weber, armed with forensic logic and federal clearance, teaming up with Zara Nangala. Zara is Kira's older sister. She's the prototype, a genetically enhanced rogue survivor who was kidnapped, modified, and has basically been hunting her creators for 2 years. I love this realization from Zara. They created the perfect predator, then made an enemy of me. It highlights the huge irony of Genexa's arrogance. The modifications they forced upon her actually gave her heightened senses, accelerated healing, and insane reflexes. They were trying to build a better human, and instead, they built the exact weapon that's going to tear them down. Because of her enhancements, she's managed to survive 18 months of relentless assassination attempts while quietly building a massive cache of evidence against them. And that evidence leads us to Section 5, the designer baby market. So Marcus and Zara pool their resources at her off-grid safe house in Darwin, and they finally expose Genexa's true endgame. It turns out the horrific experiments they did on adults in Phase 1, that was just a disposable beta test. They were just trying to perfect the gene editing stability on people they thought wouldn't be missed. The actual goal was Phase 2, performing in utero genetic modifications on embryos and fetuses. This whole massive, bloody conspiracy was built from the ground up to service a multi-million-dollar underground industry creating customized designer babies. They managed to recover a USB drive, and on it is the Phase 3 client list. And wow, it is a who's who of global power. We're talking politicians, top business executives, tech entrepreneurs, celebrities. These ultra-rich elites are literally paying millions to eagerly await children engineered from birth to have superior intelligence, enhanced beauty, and total disease resistance. It's a literal genetic class system, and it was entirely bought and paid for with the blood of indigenous test subjects. Seriously, it makes you wonder, if this tech dropped tomorrow, how many of the world's elite would secretly be on a list exactly like this? But here's the problem. Spreadsheets and documents aren't going to be enough to take down these global power players. They need a silver bullet. Knowing that corporate assassins are actively closing in on them, Marcus and Zara plan this incredibly dangerous, basically suicidal raid on an active, sterile underground lab in Adelaide. Their one singular objective is to capture undeniable high-definition video proof of an in utero modification procedure exactly as it's happening. As their raid in Adelaide hurdles the story toward its final global reckoning in Geneva, Switzerland, we are left staring at this incredibly provocative question. If humanity can actually edit its own source code, who gets to decide who gets the upgrade? Serene Fuller's Without Consent really sets a terrifying stage for the whole Altered by Design series. It shows us the very real human cost of unchecked genetic ambition, and asks us what happens when human life just becomes another data point in the pursuit of perfection. Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning everything you see, and I'll catch you in the next one.